So by now you probably know that Ironman is banning the participation of Russian and Belarusian athletes. You may have also seen posts from Challenge Family, Super League, World Triathlon, or others on what measures they're taking with the crisis in Ukraine. Ironman said they will disallow participation of Russian and Belarusian athletes in the World Championships and in Kona and in St. George. Furthermore, no pros will be able to race in 2022 in Ironman or 70.3 events, including this weekend's Dubai 70.3. No age groupers will be allowed to compete under the Russian or Belarusian flag at any event in 2022. Now, I can't see how banning an entire nationality of athletes can result in any good. Okay, now if it's the IOC doing it to prevent state-sponsored doping, on the elitist of elite levels, the Olympics, it's more understandable. But to tell an age grouper like you or me that he or she can't race under his or her own flag because of what their leaders are doing is something else. Challenge Family hasn't specified whether they will allow Russian or Belarusian athletes to compete and hasn't released much on the topic. The only thing they've done is they've canceled their Challenge Moscow race. PTO really hasn't said anything. You look at their media releases, there's nothing there. World Triathlon has said similar to what Ironman has said. However, this is on top of their prior suspension of Russian Triathlon Federation back in December, but that was due to doping. I checked out the Russian Triathlon website and Belarusian Triathlon Federation, and neither of those locations have anything to say about the ban. Now, if you look at Facebook, both Ironman and World Triathlon have posted similar things, as I mentioned. And on the Ironman post, there's 739 comments, and it's a very mixed bag. I would say most people are in support of the bans, but many others felt that it's simply creating more divisiveness and trouble where we certainly don't need any. Now, the objections to the bans are that you shouldn't punish innocent athletes who are likely against this invasion as well, that it's purely blanket discrimination based on nationality, which is something that's wrong, obviously. Some even have called it racism in the posts, that it further divides us and gives Putin even more excuses and more material for his propaganda, that it's hypocritical. That was a big one, with the US and other countries having invaded other countries, and with Ironman having races in places like Israel, like China. Hey, they should have banned all Americans when we invaded Iraq the second time, right? On the other hand, supporters of the ban say that it does pressure athletes into speaking up in their countries, and that we have to continue pressure in as many areas as possible, and this is just one of them. However, I do have a hard time believing that these triathletes will suddenly object to Putin because they can't race in an Ironman. Some have actually gone as far as to say it's actually for the safety of those Russian or Belarusian athletes. This one's funny. Ironman is now protecting athletes based on nationality by disallowing them from coming to their events where they will suddenly be ridiculed for their flag. Others are saying that the people, the citizens, the athletes are in part to blame for enabling or allowing Putin to be in power. But I hardly think that's how dictatorships work. There's very few reasons of substance to support the ban. As I read the ban, however, it does not actually ban these athletes from competing, only from racing under those flags. Now, I know personally that you can register under any flag. I've done it. I accidentally chose Singapore once because that's where I live, although I'm American, and I raced under Singapore. So they still can race, just not under their flags. For example, they can choose North Korea. They can choose Syria. They can choose Sudan. You see how ridiculous this is? As mentioned, I don't think anybody has any issues with the race cancellations in Russia or banning the state-sponsored national athletes. It's more about punishing the age groupers who are likely just as opposed to this invasion as anybody else. Ultimately, I think everybody wants the same thing. They want an end to this conflict, but there are vastly differing opinions on how to apply pressure and who should take the blame or who should be penalized. If it's any consolation, however, there were not any Belarusian athletes that competed or completed the world champs in 2019, either 70.3 or Kona. There were 19 Russians at Kona and 77 at the world champs, 70.3 world champs. Of course, the 2022 numbers may be very different. Now, I don't mean to discount the implications of blanket banning an entire nationality by showing how few athletes from those countries there are. I just want to have a sense of the actual impact this will have on the individual competitors in, let's say, the world champs. Of course, there are far more age groupers of both nationalities that would love to compete, in upcoming races, and now they can't. What if you're Russian and you registered for an upcoming race? What are you going to do? Does that mean you can't compete? Can you go into your registration and change your flag? I don't know, but I don't think it's fair. And when it comes to pros, this basically ends their careers for 2022. They're all disallowed from racing in 2022 altogether. So, in short, I think it's an extreme measure that overreaches. At best, I think it's unfair. At worst, I think it's discriminatory.